86% of organizations value professionals that upskill to advance their careers. It's never too late. Enroll for a self-paced online course today and get to enjoy a 10% discount. Our courses are monitoring, evaluation, accountability and learning, water, sanitation and hygiene, disaster risk reduction and management, food security and nutrition in emergencies, procurement and supply chain management, human nutrition and dietetics, maternal and infant young child nutrition.
Thank you so much for joining this session. Hi, Prudence. Today we're doing it on a Saturday, and the webinar for today is specifically on proposal writing, where we will be looking at building relationships with donors and how do we cultivate trust and partnerships. So thank you, everyone, for just being able to join this session that we have for us. So before we start, just some housekeeping rules. In case you have any questions, comments, or clarification, kindly just type in your message on chat. And if you have any questions, please just type it in. There's a Q&A section there. We will have a chance where we'll get to ask questions on after the session is over. So now we get to do that. Any other than that, we are looking forward to really having a very engaging presentation or a very engaging webinar. So do make a point to listen in. We will be sharing the recording and the presentation by the end of, I think, close of business on Monday, because today is a Saturday. Then you'll get to really confirm what you missed and just trying to add value to what you already have. So with that, I think I will just go ahead and allow the HG team to introduce themselves, and then we will embark on the session for today. This will also be a good time for you if you have any friends, colleagues, and anyone who is into proposal writing. Please just reach out to them so that now they can join in and have a session together. I also want to give a shout out to Idrissa. Thank you so much for joining. Zuleka, thank you for joining. Sparks, good morning. Girma from Ethiopia, very much welcome. We also have Abdul Rahim from Pakistan, who's a PhD student on disaster management. You are very much welcome. So with that, I would want to bring on board Shadrack to introduce himself. Hi, Shadrack.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shadrack Kombe, part of the HG team, and glad to be here and to share some bit of experience in proposal writing, specifically how do we build trust and partnership with our donors. Thank you so much, and hope to engage more. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shadrack, for that. We also have Prudence Dagiji. Sorry, she's traveling, but her name is Prudence from Rwanda and working with the humanitarian organization that is called Food for Hungry as an area program coordinator. Welcome, Prudence. And then we have Fikre as well, who has also joined us. You're very much welcome. So with that, I think I would want to give my chance one of my colleagues to take us through. He will introduce himself and also take us through what we have in store for the coming few months, that is November and December, as well as any new updates that may arise or that is up that Humanitarian Global has for us this coming few months. Welcome.
Hello, Sheilah.
Yes, please.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. So as she's mentioned, my name is Brian from Humanitarian Global, and I'm glad to be in this webinar. I'm also glad to have so many participants joining. Prudence, of course, we can see you, Fikre, Alex, and Michael. We can all see you. Thanks to Shadrack for organizing the presentation, and we look forward to a resourceful event. So thanks much, and I'll be looking forward to today's topic. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward, Shadrack.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. So with that, I think I would want to bring on board Shadrack to take over the session. Please let's note that if you have any questions, comments, or clarifications, please raise them on the Q&A section. We will be looking at them and then answer them as we move on. And if you have any comments, even as Shadrack talks, please make a point of just raising them. It's always nice when we are all learning together. So as he presents and there are a few comments you want to put across, please ensure you raise it on the chat section. Welcome, Shadrack.
Thank you so much, Sheilah, Brian. It's always a pleasure. So let's get into the session this morning. From my side, it's morning. We begin by just some few things. So I'd want to begin the session by saying that if we are not growing, then we are dying, especially when it comes to fund raising or seeking for resources. So if you're not raising any resources for our organization, if you're not building our portfolio, then there's a very good chance that we are actually on a path to, closing shop. So it's very, very important that we keep growing our funding base and our resources. So building donor loyalty, or making sure that we've got trust and partnership in our with our donors, comes almost at the tail end. So there is a whole process that we go through in terms of donor management and building donor loyalty comes at the very tail end. So we begin this particular process with, looking at donor acquisition. How do we bring donors into our organization? Once they're in the organization, how do we retain them? Make sure that they are able to give to our cause for a period of time. And then lastly, how do we build loyalty among those who we have retained? So I won't get much into donor acquisition and donor retention. I'd want us to take a look at donor loyalty. How do we build donor loyalty? Because that's where trust and co-creation and partnership comes in. But maybe you're here and you're wondering, so what do we mean by donor acquisition? So donor acquisition basically means and refers to the process by which nonprofits would prospect, that is find, attract, and secure new donors. And this they do through various techniques. So this could be through proposal development. It could be through local fundraising events, or other techniques that they use approaching individual donors, face-to-face donors, and the likes, but basically trying to get people to support their cause. Donor retention, on the other hand, is making sure that we steward the resources that have come in and ensure that those donors that we've been able to acquire are retained in our books for the longest period that we can ever have. Because as the English saying goes, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. So once you acquire your donor, how do you make sure that you hang on to them for the longest period that they can be able to give to your cause? And then the last bit is making sure that we secure commitment and growth, moving your retained donor from giving you 10,000 to giving you 100,000. How do we grow that? How do we keep this consistency in giving? Is what we refer to as donor loyalty. And it might seem the difference between donor retention and donor loyalty is a very thin line, because one of them looks at the organization putting in place mechanisms to make sure that we steward the resources that we get, and maintain a relationship with our donors so that they keep coming back. While achieving that from a donor perspective is a donor willing and committed to give again and again and again because of either the experience they have received from your organization or the change that they can be able to relate with within your organization. So donor retention basically is a strategy that your nonprofit is going to pick. Donor loyalty is that experience that your donor receives, so much so that they want to come back. Look at it as you, a customer to a store. So the store will brand itself. The store will make sure that it's able to provide services that meet your need when you need it. So that is them prospecting in getting you as a customer. But the moment you walk into the store, their customer service, the experience, the look and feel, the ambience in that particular store, all these are geared towards making sure that once you buy, you come back again tomorrow. So that is donor retention. They put in place strategies to make sure that you come back again tomorrow, either to buy the same product that you bought or to expand your buying into other new products or other products within the store. However, the experience that you get in interacting with this store will make you come back. So it could be the ambience, it could be the customer service, it could be what the store has already done, but that particular experience makes you trust and makes you want to come back again to make a purchase. Now, that particular aspect that you have as a customer is what you call donor loyalty. And nonprofits can also build this particular feeling, this particular experience with their donors to make sure that they come back again and again and again. So basically, by definition, we'll say it's when retained donors trust, they admire, and they show commitment to your nonprofit in more ways than just giving money. This could be making referrals, being your ambassador, being your advocate in places where you cannot actually get into. So it's when you retain them so much that they trust you and they admire and they want to commit. So how do we go about getting to this particular point? So for us to be able to build loyalty, number one, we need to understand our donors. Number two, we need to be personal and timely. We need to build trust, we need to engage them, and we need to provide value. And lastly, we need to ask. So let's get into this quickly, one by one, and then we see how it goes. So we need to understand our donors. Not all donors are the same. Different donors will come into your project or into your nonprofit for different reasons. Yeah. Can we be able to clearly articulate and clearly segment these particular donors in the different segments within which they interact with our nonprofit? So we need to understand them and segment them into the different groups, because the moment you are able to segment them and you are able to classify them into key areas, then you can be able to reach out to them and you can engage with them very effectively. So one of the ways of segmenting your donors could be by their giving. Yeah. Are they giving grants? Are they giving loans? Are they major, do they give major gifts? Do they just give one-off donations? What's the category? What's their giving like? That's one way of looking at your donors and just understanding that this one gives grants. So maybe they have a cycle that you need to be cognizant of. maybe they give grants, and the grants they get comes from, their taxes from people in their country. So it's important for us to be able to understand what commitment and what accountability do they have to the people. That way we can now help, and we can now be able to see how best we can engage them so that they are also able to communicate effectively with the people that, give them the grants. If it's major donors, what are their interests? What is it, or why are they engaging with us? It'll be important for us to be able to discover all this so that we can be able now to engage, communicate, and sustain the relationships that we have. Number two, it could be the interest. Donors are interested when they give, then they have an interest in either a sector that they're giving in or a cause that you're actually addressing. So what is that cause that you're addressing? Is it an education cause that many more individuals get an education? Could it be education for early childhood? Is it education for basic education, that's primary and secondary? Is it education at tertiary level? Is it education for adults? What is their interest in your nonprofit? So if you're able to classify them based on the interest that they are giving within your nonprofit, then you can do so much more within that particular sector as well with them. So try and understand what sphere. So I've given just 3 examples: education, childcare, and health. But in each of this, you can have subsections. Health, is it communicable, non-communicable? Is it general health, or is it specialized health? Is it preventive? Is it curative? So what is it that they're giving towards in this particular space? So if you're able to understand the interests that they have, then you'd be able to engage them at that particular sphere. So discover our donors. Let's research them on the web. Let's go to their website. Let's find out what is it that they give towards. How do they come up? Why is their giving important to them in terms of their mission and their vision? Let's discover this, because it's on this basis that now we can be able to engage, we can be able to reach out and see what exactly we can do with them. So let's discover and let's understand our donors. Be personal, be prompt. Just like your store, the moment you pay for the goods and services, or the moment you present a complaint, there'll be somebody available to actually address your issue or your concern. So the moment they give they give either money or time or something, be as prompt as you can to just send that thank you note. Make it as personal as it can be. Just appreciate that they have given to you, because this is what now builds the trust, builds the recognition, and it helps you to, it helps them feel appreciated by your organization. So ensure that you acknowledge their giving. Make sure that you are as specific as possible in terms of what they're giving to you. So if they give computers, for instance, specify that the computers, you receive the computers, you appreciate the computers, and link it to the impact that the computers are doing to your target audience and to your target beneficiaries. So how is this helping them out? Maybe they give just 2 desktop computers to your community library. So try and break it down and tell them that now children are able to research, children are able to do their homework, children are able to do this. So move the communication away from the nonprofit to the impact and the value of that particular donation. And I will not overemphasize the need for us to be prompt. Be prompt, Be timely. Don't wait for 2-3 days or a week, a month, or a year before you send the message. The moment it comes through, send the message as soon as possible. Why? Because this is what friendships are all about. Because people don't fund organizations, they fund friends. So you need to be able to cultivate that notion that we are friends and we are making a difference together. And the only way we can be able to do that is to do it promptly and at the right time. Otherwise, we lose our donors. Build trust, provide regular updates and reports of your progress. Everybody wants to know how their money is being used. So the big question is, how do we communicate this? How do we relay this to our donors? So provide regular updates and reports on the progress and the impact. Be accountable, both in terms of the terms and conditions in your agreements that you had when they were donating, and two, be accountable to your own internal business processes. What do I mean by this? So when you got the grant came with an agreement. It said you're going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 things. Are we accountable to those 4? Are we complying to those issues that came through in our terms of engagement? If you're able to communicate that we are in compliance with every condition that came through in the terms, then it helps the donor to actually relay the same confidence upwards, or where the money is coming from. So are we able to be accountable to what we signed to? But also our own internal business processes, our procurement processes, our financial management processes, our monitoring and evaluation processes internally as a nonprofit. What do we say we are going to do? So if we said we need to segregate duties when making payments or when procuring, are we actually adhering to this? So if we can be able to build confidence that we are compliant both to legal terms in country and also in the terms and conditions for the grants and donations that we get, as well as our own internal business processes, then it builds the trust that we are doing the right thing to the right target audience. One of the best ways that we can be able to tap into in a very competitive world in donor management is storytelling. How can we be able to tell the story of what the money that has come to the organization is doing in the areas where we work? Talk about the changes that are happening within your target audience to your donors, so that you are able to connect with them emotionally. And one of the key things that comes to mind when I'm thinking about storytelling is moving the story away from the brand or the organization. Most of the time we'd want to have our brand and organization as the hero in the story. But most of the stories that compel donors to actually give, compel donors to actually come back again, are those stories that bring out your project participants or your project beneficiaries as heroes, that they were going through issues and this is how they were able to overcome it. And they were able to overcome it because of the support that came from the donor. And the organization comes in at the very tail end as a go-between between the donor and the hero. So if you're able to move the perspective from the organization to the impact that the organization has been able to do, then you're able to connect far much better with your audience, and you're able to build better trust. It's been mentioned before that one of the biggest reasons why donors don't do repeat givings is lack of trust. I think it's the second largest reason why donors don't, do repeated givings. So how can we be able to build this? So regular updates, being accountable both to internal business processes, terms and conditions, and legal frameworks, and connecting with them, emotionally will help build the trust. And once you're able to build the trust, then it's much easier to have them, give back again and again and again and again. So engage your donors. As you acquire your donors, work with them because they identified you and they were keen in funding you because you are doing something with the community that was important to them or had value to them. So they're not just funding you because you exist, but they know that whatever you're doing in the community is something that is dear to them as well. So engage them, take them to the field once in a while, make them feel part of your mission and your vision. How can we do this? One, you can invite them to events that you're holding. So you're going to the field, you're going to talk to young people on employability. Hey, tag your donor along if they're in country, if they're within the same country. Ask them to come and talk to a young person or to motivate them in one way or the other. That now takes the relationship from just transactional exchange of money to them being part and parcel of who you are, and them being part and parcel of the community that you're serving. Invite them to workshops. One of the interesting things that I noticed about donors in my brief period in the nonprofit sector is that as they come and as they share their insights and thoughts in the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, then the more willing they are to actually provide further technical assistance, refer you to other people who can actually help address some of the issues that you struggle with. Just this last week, we brought in some of the donors because we're having our annual review. So we do pause and reflection meetings. And one of the donors was in country. They had actually come for a brief stay in Kenya. So we decided, hey, we'll be having this workshop. Can you spare a day or two to just come and listen in what we are thinking and where we would want to go? And they came in the workshop. They had just dedicated 2 days to the workshop. The workshop was going for 4 days. And trust you me, the moment we started discussing and we started sharing what our thinking are, what would like to see happen in the next 3 years, it became so engaging to them, so much so that they stayed for the entire 4 days. They took time to go out in the evenings or early mornings, but most of the time they were with us. And the feedback that they gave yesterday was, it was so inspiring for them to join us and to be with us in the workshop that we were having. And it helped clarify so many things that were not very clear in our reporting and in our engagements with them through emails. So it helped shape their understanding of what we want to do, where we want to go. So that now has helped us to know how to communicate to them, how to be able to interact with them much better. So just engage them. It might sound like you're interfering with their breaks, but you never know how far this can actually go in just building a relationship and ensuring that you are able to retain them and also open other doors. You can invite them to meetups in the sector. So you're meeting with maybe a government officials, or the government is having a meeting and they're interested in this particular sector. Yeah, you can tag them along. In one of the projects that we were implementing, the in-country representative of this donor was having a very hard time reaching out to the Ministry of Education in Kenya. And we had a very good relationship with the Ministry of Education. We didn't have any issues or challenges, meeting with them, holding meetings together. And just by us being invited to go to a launch of a curriculum that was being, rolled out by the Ministry of Education, we decided, you know what, these guys are struggling to get an audience with the Ministry of Education. Why don't we just, give them a call and ask them, hey, we've been invited for this meeting. We've got an opportunity to send 3 people. We would want to send 2. Could you tag along as our 3rd person? And they're like, yeah, let's just hop in. Let's see how it goes. And with our interaction and just sharing what we are doing with this donor and what you're doing with the Ministry of Education and how far we've been able to come, helped open doors for the in-country office of this donor. And now we are the go-to people when it comes to relationships with the ministry. So it helps cultivate. You help unlock some of the hard things that they are experiencing. Then you get a permanent imprint in their minds on how best on who to go to if they have a challenge here and there. And because you are there at their very point of need, then their giving also comes in handy, and they're able now to tell you that we can actually address this particular policy or this particular aspect to the Ministry of Education, and we've got funds to do so. Will you be willing to do that? So you are able to increase the portfolio of that particular donor by just engaging them in your day-to-day activities. Give them opportunities to interact with staff, partners, and participants. Opening up your organization to your donor based on your segmentation really helps to show that you're accountable, and you have a level of integrity and confidence in how you do your work, how you engage the different partners and the different participants, so much so that you are free for them to just come in and talk to your staff, talk to partners that you work together, and even the project beneficiaries. That way, it helps build trust, it helps build accountability, because now they feel you have nothing to hide. And because you've got nothing to hide, then their trust in you also goes much higher. Provide value. Most of the time we look back and ask ourselves, so how can we be able to add value to a relationship that begins with money from the other individual or the other side? Well, there are many ways you can actually provide value. One, you can supplement. One of the interesting partnerships that I have forged in my career was with a corporate partner. And basically, their giving was very small, but we managed to grow this simply by adding value. So they provided a very small grant that really couldn't afford to bring in personnel. But we managed to expand the portfolios of some of our managers, some of the people that work within the organization, to actually support this small project to deliver on what it needed to deliver. So just costing and just adding, the added time of these individuals into your financial report just portrays that you are adding value to that small grant that has come through. So by doing so, that grant slowly grew, because now they realized you can even mobilize other resources beyond the grant that has come in to just make sure that their interests are being covered. So what is it that you can do over and beyond the amount of money that has come through? You could provide your donors with exclusive opportunities and experiences. One of the things that I've come to learn working for an international organization is we normally get opportunities because we interact with service providers in different industries, and you'll get, because we have workshops and conferences that we do, some of the hotels are more than willing to give you an extra night or 2 nights stay for 2 people or for 1 person, or give you a day trip to a national park. This accumulated you can actually provide this to a donor who's in country. So if they come in and they're staying for 3-4 days and they have an extra day that they hadn't planned for, they just had it as a buffer, you can actually give them the voucher to have a day trip at the national park. So yes, it was a gift that came through, but you're using it to just add value to the partnership and to add to the friendship that you already have. It could be a dinner voucher that you actually got. Have them, you can actually pass it to your donors if you don't have any need within the organization. That adds value. It makes them feel appreciated, that the relationship we have goes beyond us exchanging, the dollar, but it goes into making sure that I'm comfortable, making sure that I'm able to see far much more than just the project that is there. So your in-kind contributions, your discounts can be a very good surprise to show appreciation to your donors. You can also be helpful. Maybe you have a very vibrant social media person within the organization. How can you be able to help them schedule some bit of posts for their social media platform? Just going out to be helpful also adds value to the relationship that you have. And by providing that opportunity to add value to what they're going through, builds in the relationship, and by building the relationship, then partnerships, trust can also be fostered. Lastly, always ask for feedback from your donors. Ask what you're doing well, what you're not doing well. They'll be more than willing to give you such kind of feedback. So seek feedback from your donors. You can send questionnaires, you can ask them on your social media platforms. You can make a call and just find out how the experience that they went through interacting with you as a recipient. What areas can you improve? They'll be more than willing to actually get back to you. You can organize face-to-face meetings with major donors, people who've given you pretty large sums of money. You can just have a sitting with them, just ask them their experience, how you've been able to handle them, and how you've been able to account to them. Are there areas where you can improve? Are there things that we did that didn't satisfy them? What's their satisfaction level, or their satisfaction index on a scale? You could also use, the donation forms that you already have to request for feedback. And you can do the hard thing by researching yourself on the web. What are people saying about you online? What are people commenting, or what are people putting out there about yourself, and how are you communicating out there as a brand? So research yourself on the web to find out whether there are things that you're doing that could actually jeopardize how you engage your donors. And while at it, ask for referrals and introductions. So another way is just to have them refer you to somebody else. A person who is able to refer you to somebody else, then that person has actually moved from just being a donor to a friend. Because who refers somebody? Who makes a referral? Or who does an introduction if not your friend? So always ask for a referral or an introduction. That way you'll be able to grow your customer base. I'd want to stop there, just get some questions and feedback so that you can also have a moment to just get some updates from the Institute. So I'll give it back to Sheilah to help moderate the Q&A session.
Presentation. So I have a few questions. I like the way there are so many questions that have been coming, but they've been answered as you moved along the presentation. So we are very good in that sector. There's one question. In the event where many organizations are competing for the same resources and the same projects, how can one make their proposal special so that it attracts the attention of the donors? Because the same thing is being asked is, there's also Farah, who has developed a non-profit organization that helps smallholder farmers. So his organization is pretty much new and has no previous experience. So his question, aligning with what I had asked, is when writing the proposals to donors, what could make my proposal acceptable? So look at it from the aspect of how do you make your proposal acceptable and how do you make it attractive?
Thank you so much, Sheilah, for the two questions. They're actually linked, as you've put it. And one way to really get the attention of your donor and your prospective funder. One, we need to go back to understanding and articulating their interest. What is it that they're interested in? If you're able to understand why they are out there putting out funds, then we can to align our proposals to what they are asking. But two, we need to be able to sell the change that we've been able to achieve over the years, be it an ongoing nonprofit or the case of a new foundation or a new nonprofit that we've just begun. What is it that we want to see changed in our communities? What have we been able to do so far that has changed? So again, going back to the aspect of storytelling, what is it? What are the changes that we are actually seeing? If we can be able to articulate that in our proposals to bring out the relevance and coherence in terms of us understanding the problem and the solution that you're providing, then we can be able to grab the attention of the person who's reviewing our proposal. So I'd say, number one, understanding the donor and aligning our ask to what they're already funding, and two, looking at the impact that we've already had over time. What is it that we've been able to achieve? Bringing it out in terms of a story or in terms of the heroes, not putting the organization as the hero, but the people that we've been able to change. We can also take a look at past lessons or learnings that we've had. What have we learned in implementing the different interventions that we are proposing? What learnings are there? What is it that we've learned that makes us better equipped to actually address the problem? Because the learnings are not the same across the different entities. So if you can be able to bring this out, that we implemented this before, this is what we've been able to learn, and this is the improvement that you're bringing into this solution that you're giving you based on the learnings that we have, then your proposal is going to stand out from others. If you can also, as I said, the last point that I presented, ask for recommendations from other donors who funded you to actually do the good work that you're putting together into your current proposal. Then that also goes a long way, because donors actually speak to other donors. And if they can speak for and on your behalf, then you stand a better chance of winning the current call that you have. I think on top of my head, those are some of the things that I can actually put forth, Sheilah.
Good. Thank you for that. And another question is, and just something for the members, If there is a question you want to ask live, please raise up your hand and then I'll give you a chance to ask once I ask this question that I'm giving. So Pendo is asking, how can an organization recruit new donors, especially in the case of faith-based organization? And how can a project maintain its funding partners, even if the funding period phase out? And that I'll also link it with from as in how do you recruit new donors, especially on faith-based organizations, and how do you maintain your funding even when the funding has ended? Someone else was asking, in most cases, donors don't give funds to organizations but to friends. And I think that's a comment you mentioned. So how far are we to attract new friends when they already have friends they fund already? Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm.
I'll start with the last one. How do we build that friendship? Yet they already have other friends that they're building. It's the same way. Each and every one of us already has friends that we interact with, but it doesn't mean that we have all the friends that we can actually get. So as you engage prospective donors, engage them for the long haul, not for the here and now. So build, try and create a base where you can be able to interact. If you take a look at the growth of donors, if I can use that word, some of them might not fund you the very first time they meet you, because again, people fund friends, they don't fund organizations. But being in their face over a period of time creates familiarity, it creates trust, and based on that, you'd be able to now get into the space of being a friend. And they might just give you something small to start with to just test the waters. And then how you perform with that will lead to further investments and further growth. So as you engage with prospective donors, be they faith-based or non-faith-based, look at it as a relationship that you're building that would take time. So create that time. So as you prospect, identify, look at the process, look at it as a process. Before they are able to give you money, it's going to take time. So let's build on that aspect of time for us to get to a point where we become friends and they're able to fund us. For faith-based organizations, then we are currently witnessing as a trend in the donor landscape, networks and associations of faith-based organizations that are coming together to either fund or seek for funding. So one of the things that we can be able to take a look at are what are some of these faith-based networks that are already existing in our different countries and in our different communities that we can actually join for funding purposes or seek funding from. So you'll find religious entities in the global north coming together and saying, okay, fine, we've got crisis in either the global south or within the global north that you'd want to respond to. How can we better do this? So these become very interesting avenues for faith-based organizations to actually tap into and raise money from these particular entities. I don't know if there's a question I'm leaving out of the three that came through. Is there something that I've left out? If there is, please let me know.
Yeah. That's okay.
Yeah.
And something that I would want to mention is we are having a proposal writing class. So for anyone who's interested to learn about proposal writing and anything encompassing writing very effective proposals that are going to attract the donors that we're mentioning, please register on the link that has been shared on chat so that now you get to interact with Shadrack on how to really write that very good proposal for your document, for your organization. Thank you for that. I'm not seeing any question from guys who've raised their hand. Oh yeah, Melvin. I think Brian, kindly give me the rights so that I can, or you put Melvin, give Melvin the rights to ask his question. And then as we do that, there's another question. What strategies should we use to match local priorities with donor priorities and align with the funders' interest? I think this will be a very good person to join our class for proposal writing, but maybe you can just highlight, Shadrack, what strategies can you implement for you to be able to match local priorities with donor priorities and still be able to align with the interest of the funders?
All right. So quite a number of strategies that you can actually do so that you are able to align. One of the things that we talk about in the class is one, just understanding the landscape of your sector. What does your sector, what sector are you working in, and who funds this particular sector? Segmenting them and having a pipeline of, their cycles of funding. How do they fund? Who do they fund? And what are the eligibility criteria? So having a very good portfolio or a database of who funds what within your sector, segmenting them, point number one in building loyalty, segmenting them based on the much they fund and their interest will go a long way in ensuring that you start aligning yourself, one, to the funding cycles that they have, and two, to what they fund and how much do they fund and their eligibility criteria. So trying as much as possible to understand the kind of donors within that particular space that you have will now help you come up with a very good plan of how to engage, how to make sure that you're on the face of these funders every other time they bring out a call for proposals, or when they announce donor roundtables, you are aware of how their calendar and how their schedules are, so that you can actually engage and create that relationship that is needed for us to actually get the funding from them. So among other strategies that we can be able to reflect in the class, but that's the major one. Just doing prospective research on your donors to actually understand the cycles, when, why, and now aligning this to now the needs that you have within your organization and the proposals that you send out to these entities. Yeah.
For that. Yes, happy that you've been able to answer that for them. So Melvin, I think you can be able to ask your question.
Okay, thank you very much. Melvin Mawa, I'm attending from Yaoundé, Cameroon. My worry is some donors indicate as requirement a certain level of experience in a given domain for them to fund. As a new organization in the field, how do you make your proposal attractive and acceptable to gain such a funding? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melvin, for that question. Where there are conditionalities, especially for experience, one of the ways I've seen work very well for nonprofits that are actually starting is going for such kind of proposals in a consortium, being able to join in with somebody who qualifies and somebody who has the experience, and you coming in as a sub or as a strategic implementer, so that you can actually access the funding that is available. And also being part and parcel of other projects within that particular sector that can actually give you an edge. It might not be that the organization that you're running has the experience by itself, but it can also be an experience by association, by being part and parcel of bigger projects that are already there. Because at the end of the day, what would want to see, especially what funders want to see, is that you can actually deliver on what you're saying you can deliver. So if you're able to, one, go for those calls as a consortium, or as you continue implementing, attaching yourselves to other entities that can actually help reduce your learning curve in terms of experience, so that you can actually write a compelling proposal based on the learnings and based on the lessons that you've been able to accrue in the field. You might not have the 10 years or the 20 years of experience, but based on the learnings and based on the changes that you've been able to make on your project beneficiaries, that could actually give you a plus. And also the associations with other people who've been in that particular sector longer than you. If you can actually have recommendations from them, that can also build the confidence of the donor. Because it's not a checkbox most of the time. It's just trying to put in controls to make sure that we have somebody who can actually deliver and somebody who can actually manage the kind of portfolio that we want to grant. Because at times we want somebody who's been there for longer and they've been able to handle a bigger chunk of money, so that we don't give them their 5-year budget as a one-off for 1 year. It becomes very hard for such an entity to actually manage. So if you are able to show that you've got the experience based on the mentorship and coaching from another organization, or link up with an organization that can help cover you or cushion you from that particular requirement, then it becomes much easier to access the funding.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good. Thank you so much, Melvin. So I have other questions. Like, I'm going to combine two questions. Like Zuleka is asking, most donors, particularly those in international organizations, already have made decisions about specific activities to fund. So one, how do you negotiate with them to change their perception towards the activities they choose to carry out? And another question from Isaac, still related to the same. If you already have a partnership with a donor who provides small amounts of funding that do not really fully meet your needs, how do you convince the same donor to increase their funding? And as you finalize on that, because I want you to relate the 3 questions, Rebecca is really asking. So he works with FSPN Africa, and they've completed a project where an outcome was a development of a digital platform called Shamba Calendar that is linked to smallholder farmers with agricultural information and just ultimately access to markets. However, this funding was not enough. And so the innovation that was developed did not fully provide the most desired impact in terms of access to markets. So for Rebecca now, what are some of the practical tips that you can help fundraise for further development of the innovation? So more or less, how do you maneuver with these donors? 1, to be able to change their perception, 2, to increase their funding, and 3, other tips that we can be able to fundraise for further development of some of these innovations.
Okay, so let's start with donors who already have a fixed perception in an intervention and in an area. One of the key areas that can actually help change the perception is if you're able to articulate some of the lessons or the good practices that have come out of implementing the same activity, but either in a different approach or in a different way, that now aligns to the solution that you have. Because at the end of the day, we already know that most of the donors will already have this notion that this is the way it should go, but given an opportunity to see the same thing from a different light would also help them to see change, but from a different perspective. One of the ways that we can be able to help them see this particular perspective that we have is to request to run a pilot. Most donors would appreciate just, having an innovation within an area to see how it works. If it's something that they're welcome, they'll be able to fund. They might not give you the full grant, in terms of the whole portfolio. Let's say they had €1 million or 500 euros to actually implement an activity. And you come in and say, yes, we can actually do it, but use this particular approach and not the approach that you're using or you're requesting, and would like to just, prove the concept. We did it in this particular way, and these are the results that we got, and we want to prove the concept that it can actually work in a different area. Then they might not give you the whole 500. They might give you maybe 300 or 200 to just prove the concept. And that goes a long way in bringing them to your side so that you can actually implement your project in that particular perspective. The second question was on a project has come to an end, an activity has, it has elapsed. So how do we ensure that we've got either repeat or we keep tabs with this particular donor? One way is, share stories of change, stories of impact at regular intervals. Again, they might have switched their interest in one area, but just showing them that you appreciate and value what they had actually put in your project goes a long way in them actually mentioning you in a room where you're not in, but to other donors. So keep communicating. Make sure that you have very up-to-date contacts with this particular donor, manage their record, manage their profile, and keep tabs with them. Keep showing them the stories of change that are happening within the communities that you served, the peoples, the heroes that are coming out of what you guys were able to do. Another opportunity that you can actually do, and this needs to happen as you implement your projects, is to identify lessons and gaps within the implementation so that you can now start thinking of new solutions to areas or situations that were not funded, but will be important to fund so that the change is complete. What am I saying? I'm saying as you implement, you might notice that either in your project framework, be it a log frame or result frame, you had seen change happening in this manner. But as you implement, you come to realize there are other barriers that the project cannot actually address, either due to the terms and conditions within your project or the time that these changes require for us to actually address the solution holistically. So you can be able to take this and now put in a proposal to address these new barriers with either the current donor or with another donor, so that if it's with another donor, then you're adding value to the current project that you have. If it's a project that has come to an end and maybe you're getting into something totally different, you can pick the same barriers, do a new proposal and add value and show that the need is still there, and we still have resources that we can actually put in to make sure that it goes way beyond. For the third question, where you have a platform that you've put together, but it's not comprehensive enough to actually address holistically the need that was there initially, and the project has actually come to an end. There's a good opportunity actually to prospect and identify new donors that can actually address the gap that is already there. One of the things that you could do is scan your sector. Who else is interested in funding that particular sector? Not necessarily the platform, but now come to address issues within that particular sector that the platform can actually address. And if you are able to get one, then expand their perception into seeing it holistically. What are some of the things that this particular platform can help accelerate the change that we want to see. If there's something that can actually help accelerate what we can be able to achieve with our farmers, then you can actually go towards improving or maintaining the system at a higher level. So I'm seeing it as an opportunity to scan your environment and to put in a proposal to actually address the gaps that are already there. But you can also show utility. Yeah, even with the donor that funded the platform initially, you can show utility, make sure that it's full capacity and draw up some of the gaps that do exist. Link it to government, maybe. If the government sees the usefulness of this particular platform, they might actually come in to address the gap, but just show utility, that it's being used, and that there are solutions to address the gaps that are already there, either going offline, using Excel to bridge that gap, so that it becomes something that makes the donor feel we need to address this so that it can make life much easier. So show that it's being utilized despite this shortcoming. We're still using it. It's still addressing some of the issues, but this gap that is there, this is how we are trying to address it, either by short-term solutions or stopgap measures that help us to see the functionality and the use of that particular platform continue, so that the donor sees the sense of putting in a few more resources to bring it to a completion. Back to you, Sheilah.
Great. Thank you so much. That has been very interesting, and I hope you've tried as much as you can to answer almost all of your questions. So again, I will remind us, if you're interested in getting to learn a lot about working around writing proposals for your different projects, please type or click on the link that has been shared on chat. I think it has been shared quite many times. Please click on it, and then we will be able to get in touch with you. Or if you just need more clarifications about the course and how best you can be able to attend it, I'll always encourage participants, just share your details, and then one of us will be able to give you a call and help you navigate through the enrollment process. So please make a point of doing that. It will be very, very important. I'm happy for them. You guys, how you've participated in this. It has been really helpful and very engaging, as Kindie has mentioned on chat. So with that, I think that marks the end. As we wind up and as we leave this session, I want to say thank you to all of you for just being able to attend this session, for just being able to participate and just putting in the 1 hour that you've been here. I believe that you'll come out of it having learned something. As we leave, I wish you all the best. Have a wonderful evening, day from wherever you are, and looking forward to seeing you in our next webinar happening very soon. I will be sharing something on I'll share my screen. So please take note of those many activities that we've set for the next few months and make a point of attending. One of them is very, very important, especially for people who are not in Kenya at the moment. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye.
My name is Emilia Siafa from West Africa, Liberia. I work for a women's rights non-governmental organization. It's called Sister Aid Liberia, where I serve as the program director on women's political participation and leadership. The last 5 days of the training has been very insightful. I have been able to learn not just from the presentation, but I've been able to gather the information from all the participants on their different experiences and expertise on how they have managed projects directly and indirectly over the years. The information I've gathered from the training are very essential for me, since I am directly managing projects in my institution. I have been able to identify gaps here and there that I haven't really effectively been good at. or I didn't notice there were gaps, in fact, or they were important to managing the projects that I have managed. Moving forward, I have more information now. I have more ideas. I know new skills and techniques that I can incorporate as I go about managing projects, not just managing, but effectively managing projects for better results and impact. So far, so good. It was great. It was insightful and interesting. And I look forward to, being a participant of other future programs with this institution.